Here's one thing we're going to go over today that is something that I have not been doing, and I bet you haven't been either. Cleaning your hairbrushes properly. I don't know about you all, but I spend a lot of money on hairbrushes at my house, both on myself and my children. This first one is my children's brush. This is from the Dry Bar. This is both a boar and nylon bristle brush, and yes, it is absolutely disgusting. Typically, my girls are not the greatest at cleaning, well, anything, if I'm being honest. And this is just another example of that. With this tool that I'm using right here, it is simply scraping everything from the very bottom of all of those bristles and then pulling it out. So a lot of the times, and I am guilty of this as well, I will just kind of pull the excess strands of hair out of the top, and then I think that my brush is quote unquote clean. Let me tell you, it's not. So I went to town on this one first just because I knew that it was going to be a really great example to show just how much gunk, dead skin cells, hair, oil, it looks like there's even fuzz in there. I mean, this literally looks like they've been brushing one of my fluffy white blankets downstairs, which honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. Maybe they were. It is very fluffy. I looked at this and I thought, okay, let's show them how much stuff I can get out of this brush and whether or not it's going to look new again. A lot of times I look at brushes when they look like this and just say, hey, I need to just toss this, get a new one. But that can be very pricey when you're talking about brushes in these price points. Both of the Dry Bar brushes that we have are well over $50. This is the small one. I believe it was closer to $60. The larger one that I have, and I will show later, I believe was $85. It was a Christmas present from my husband, just because I was really liking this smaller one that I got just to try with my girls to see if I liked it before really splurging on the other one. I also have an Aveda just paddle brush that I will show in a little bit. That was pricey as well. It is their wooden paddle brush, and I even have a Mason Pearson that I'm going to show in here. And Mason Pearson brushes are those brushes that you can even pass down to your relatives. They are brushes that are supposed to last forever. The quality of them are really great as well. Of all of the brushes that I'm going to show today, I would say that the Dry Bar brushes are probably my favorite as far as how they leave your hair looking and feeling. The Mason Pearson brush that I have is nylon. I'm still saving my money up for that $250 price tag on their boar bristle brush. Eventually, I will have one of those as well. But when you spend this kind of money on brushes, you have to clean them properly. So that's what I'm going through in this video, really showing you all. It's very time consuming, but it is worth it. You'll see that in the end. So you can see all the gunk that I'm even having to pick out of this little tool that I have. That's how much stuff was down in my daughter's brush. Yuck. I know you guys don't have to tell me. It's absolutely disgusting. I showed it to her and her face looked like she had just seen a ghost as well. Her brush took me the longest of all of them just because I have two daughters that use this brush back and forth. And there was just a lot in here. It had never been cleaned before. Typically, like I said, I do pull the hair out. I will wash my brushes every now and again, but it's not something that I do on a normal routine, and I need to get better at that. We do have a lot of the wet brushes as well, and they are probably my kids' favorite simply because they do work really well on wet hair as far as detangling it, not pulling the hair. They also have a lot of fun characters, so kids are really going to like those as well. They are going to be the same as this. However, you are going to need to clean them like this. You are going to need to wash them. You are going to need to remove the hair, excess skin cells, fuzz, oil, things like that from those as well, if you're wanting them to last a long time. However, if you're a person that just says, hey, I just want a brush that I can use until it starts looking like this one, and then I'm going to toss it and get a new one, I do think that the wet brushes are probably going to be the best bet for you on that end. I myself have a couple of different wet brushes. This is everything that came out of my girl's brush. Now, I did remove all of the excess hair from that one before I started. This is my Mason Pearson brush. Yes, these are crazy expensive. They are also supposedly the best brushes that you can get. I also removed the top hair from this one, and then as you can see, there is still a lot of hair and gunk and stuff down at the base of this as well. What this tool does is it helps you get all of that out, and you're not just getting the very top layer out. When you brush your hair with brushes like this, your hair is touching the bottom layer as well as the ends. It's not just touching those ends that you're clearing. That's why it's important to go through and do all this. And again, don't feel guilty. I'm just now starting to do this with all of my hairbrushes as well. I have not done it with my brushes for years. I am very much guilty of just tossing a brush when it starts looking bad and then going and buying new. However, like I said, now that we're spending a little more on brushes, trying to really take care of hair at my house, make sure that we don't have a lot of hair falling out, we don't have a lot of hair pulling. I have one daughter who has naturally curly, wavy hair like I do, another daughter who has a little bit thicker, straight hair, and so we need different brushes for the different hair types that we do have, which is, unfortunate that we don't all have the same hair type, but we are only human, and everyone has different biologics, genetics, all that kind of jazz, and people that they take after. I believe that my youngest daughter likely takes more after my husband's side with her hair being a little bit thicker, because nobody on my side of my family really has very, very thick hair. So I'm going to keep going with these. I just wanted to show you guys, it is a long process, so you don't want to start this unless you really have the time to sit down and do it. Again, with this one, I am going to show you guys what I would normally do, which I thought this was, cleaning out my hairbrush before, is just pulling out all of the hair that you physically can from just your hands. I've recently learned that that's not really cleaning your brush. It's not getting the oil from your hair out of the brush or the bristles, and it's leaving a lot of dead skin cells, dandruff, buildup from dry shampoo, from any products that you use, down in the base of your brush. And so for me personally, I try to pull the oil off of my scalp on a daily basis so that it's not just sitting there causing buildup. I also am a culprit of using dry shampoo, and I know that a lot of my brushes have a lot of that dry shampoo and the buildup just sitting in it. And when you're leaving that in your brush, you're then putting that right back into your hair on another day, which is not really ideal. So with this one was a lot easier to clean. So if this is the type of brush you have, which is just your typical larger, nylon bristle with the little, rounded tips on the end brush, then it might be a little easier and quicker for you to do this. But if you do use the boar bristle brushes like we do, we have the combination boar and nylon bristle brushes. It is a lot harder to get everything out of those, because those boar bristle brushes are really just holding on as tight as they can to a lot of this buildup. Supposedly, I watched another video about how the boar hair is the closest to our own human hair, and that's why it is so, great to use those type of brushes. This one is the larger of the dry bar brushes that we have. This is the one that at the time that I bought it was an $85 price tag on here, which, is also not a cheap brush by any means. I was very curious about these because I had heard a lot of really great things. My girls prefer these brushes as well as their wet brushes, just because of those, Disney characters. But my oldest does say that these brushes make her hair feel silky and smooth and soft, and she just wants one like mine. However, I told her she's going to have to ask Santa for one of those, because mommy is not going to be paying $85 for a brush for a child, especially when they do not take care of their brushes. This is everything that I got out of all of the brushes. It's just a hot medge of hodgepodge junk. I have this bin right here. It's called a Joseph wash bin. I used this when my kids were little to wash all of their bottles, so they would stay separate from the sink. You're going to take just a little bit of your typical shampoo that you normally use on your head with hot water. Go ahead and put that down in here. I like this bin because it does have the bottom that you just simply twist over, and then it's going to release everything. You're going to put all of your brushes down in there for about 10 minutes, kind of swish them around, make sure they really soak in, to get the shampoo on them, get that oil off of all the bristles as well as the base while they're down in there. Then once you pull them out, you're going to flip them over and let them dry for about 10 hours, honestly. It's best to kind of do this and then let them sit overnight so that they're ready for the next day. A way that you can speed up that drying process is get one of these microfiber towels. I am in love with the Aquis towels, especially for drying your hair. And then you can go through the brush itself and kind of try to dry it a little bit faster. But this is the only type of towel that I would attempt to use on these hairbrushes. I hope that this helps everybody start cleaning their brushes.